Greetings, my beautiful viewers. I am the Hunter of Comedy, and welcome once again to Remember. So, I'm going to be doing all of the journal entries today. They are definitely not for the faint of heart, and I'm sure that they're not going to be all as terrible as I'm imagining, but the first one was bad enough that I was like, let's do that one later. So, I'm going to insert the first one here, and then we'll go to the second one.
October 31st, 2005. After a lovely chat over scotch with a friend, I have decided to begin a little journal of my exploits to remind me of my prime. The mind cannot hold memories forever, but words on a page can, as he says. It's rather interesting, I dare say, to know that one day I will become old and frail, both in body and mind. I don't know whether to be disgusted at the thought, fearful, or even joyful at knowing that, eventually, I will grow tired of these little escapades I allow myself. That eventually, I shall stop caring for the work I do. Will that day come soon? Most likely not. Someday, possibly. Who knows truly? Thus brings about you, my little document of reveries. You shall carry not only my memories, but the joy and wonder behind them. I warn you now, they will be morbid and disturbing to the typical mindset of humanity. But I trust that you will hold them forever still, without judgment. For example, today, before even going to have that drink with my friend, I was operating on a couple. Oh, how they begged to be released, but of course I had work to do. I couldn't allow myself to stop. No matter how much they pleaded and cried, I needed to discover the true scientific depths of affection under such duress. The female was dressed in an overly sexualized policewoman's uniform, and the male was in an outdated caricature of prisoner's attire. If not for the date they chose to don these articles, I would have assumed they were trying to enact a sexual fantasy out in the open. Nevertheless, my work had to be done. I had just finished cutting open the male and was going to start on the female when her usual survivatory functions ceased. There were no more cries to stop, no tears meant to induce mercy, only stark silence. I had not even touched her, but as soon as her eyes shifted to that of her former partner, they grew glazed, and all mental functions stopped. Is this what affection does to you? I had known for a fact that certain hormones in the body acted as relaxants and antibodies for pain, but to dull or even remove emotion. The trauma of it was my explanation. There were, unfortunately, simply too many variables to ponder about, and no time to settle on theories. They're now just sitting in room 3, and I will need to continue working on them tomorrow. I wonder how the smell will affect the female. Without preservation, the body will begin to rot, and I'd had no time to deal with the defecation. I will need to make note of that reaction. Perhaps her faculties will return to her with time. How to end these journals? I know. Adieu, Jimukas. Perfect.
Okay, so there was the first one. Now we're going to the second one.
December 12th, 2008.
Hold on. Oh wow, it's 3 years since that first entry.
December 12th, 2008. My beloved bunker in the ground has become a playground for rats. I allow one person to use my facility for their research, and that singular act of generosity has brought about at least a dozen more annoyances alone. Damn my own curiosity for allowing such research to be held. But I was told it was imperative that the research be done in an isolated space. And since I alone hold the rights to such a place, I was their only option. Now my space is plagued by damnable children and their medical examiners. If I hear one more screech of a whimpering brat, I will slice out the throats of the entire damned lot. Children, annoyances of the world, born from the infernal colliding of sperm and egg. Disgusting results to a filthy, hormonally driven act. I pity humans who feel that biological imperative to breed. They often slake praise upon the ones who do not seek to cut out the option entirely from their lives. There is no gain for annoyances like offspring. They whine and cry louder and in higher pitches than any sensible human being. It is enough to turn any dying embers of excitement to utter despair. There is no fun to be had tying down a child and playing with their internals. They have no understanding, no recognition of the act being played out, and yet still, the creatures who now use my space do so with smiles on their faces. I will never understand the mentality of such pedophiles.
Jesus.
Is there any possible treasure to discover in this? Maybe, once they're finished, I could trap them and do a little experimentation of my own. Dig within their blackened minds and figure out their obsessions with such useless creatures. Is there something to be gained in the innards of a child? Is there some sort of euphoric pleasure found within their screams? I doubt that I will find anything. But science has not yet failed me. In the end, I always discover what I want. It's only fair payment, after all, for spoiling my environment with their nonsense. I shall ponder on it further. I must leave and visit a dying friend. Despite locking himself to the chains of normalcy, he is a good man. I wonder how he would react if he knew one of his best friends was an elite Black Shadow scientist. Another thought to ponder on. Adieu, Chimukas.
Well, I'm wondering if one of the children there is, Sarah. Well, I suppose we'll find out.
April 18th.
2011, that's another 3 years. They're all 3 years apart. Because 2015, 2008, and now 2011. Okay.
April 18th, 2011. I was invited to attend an auction. The nerve that host has for assuming that I, one of the greatest minds in the Black Shadows, would stoop so low as to purchase my test subjects. I have multiple methods for getting what I want. I have many friends who would snatch up small countries, for God's sake, just for me to have bodies for my table. I had never been so insulted in my life. The mere thought of wasting time at such an event makes my stomach turn. Perhaps they were obsessed with the idea of having an elite in their midst. I control the entire tri-state area, after all. No one is safe from me, and the dim-witted authorities know this very well. Oh, I laugh each time I think of them practicing their little speeches. We are uncertain as of this time as to who the suspect is. Oh, it's adorable to confess that they even thought of trying. With a reputation like that, one would think that I would be above such common affairs. Besides, who knows what the host did to the merchandise? They could be drugged up, already operated on individuals, and I would be handed second-rate specimens. Bah! I'm letting this get to me. How is it that I'm allowing such an annoyance to dig beneath my skin? Another mental adventure to dissect. Pride. Possible. But not the only emotional link. Arrogance. Another possibility. There has to be more involved. No matter, I will not stoop so low as to attend. Mark my words well, my immobile friend. I shall never step foot in a place of such commoner dealings. Oh, my newest patients have arrived. I must greet them properly. They will be my bridges to finding out this mental problem I am having. Adieu, Jimukas.
Okay, so we're getting a clear picture of this guy. He's arrogant, he works for a shadowy organization, and he does not buy people. He doesn't stoop so low, he just kidnaps them for free. Jesus Christ, the fuck?
April 20th,
Another 3 years.
2014. 3 years ago, I swore that I would never attend an auction. A singular promise so that I would never stoop so low. As you know, my friend, I closed the doors on my research a year ago. I grew tired, bored even, of finding the same processes for different problems. Mortally dissect one, break the other. Rip into both, lose both. Lock them up, watch them fall apart and wither away. While the results I receive are all different, the method has become lackluster. Truly, that is my doing, but I am a practitioner of mental study and experimentation. I know what will give results, and that often drives me to do what I know best. Wash, rinse, and repeat. It is flawless in execution and practice, but not so in the satisfaction afterwards. I've cleared out the bodies and the equipment from the bunker, and I found myself sitting in my study, bored and craving something new, when my damnable colleague showed up with that invitation to the auction and that bottle of scotch. I did not know what came over me. The fool must have drugged me. I found myself nodding and entering his car without realizing it. By the time we had reached the event hall, I could not turn back. I was surrounded by rats in tuxedos and gowns, all of whom were pretending to hold some form of higher power over one another. Imbeciles. They did not know of the genius who was walking past them. I am ashamed of myself for even attending. I am even more ashamed of what occurred during my attendance. The auction was nearing its end, and the final product of the night was a child, no older than 12 or 13, female, clearly used, a second-hand specimen, but still healthy and ready to be sold for, from what the host stated, the first time. The creature had probably been passed around and had some form of illness, but who would buy her knowing that? I knew how their little business operated. Just upon looking at her, she was certainly not healthy, yet, somehow, I found myself entranced. The pedophilic rats behind me shouted and hollered bid upon bid, grating on my nerves. Did I bid to silence them? Possibly. Did I bid because of her? Despite it being a highly doubtful hypothesis, I cannot deny its existence. Regardless, I found myself snatching my friend's bidding fan and raising it. Do you know how much that creature cost me? 500,000. $500,000 for a damn child. She's now just sitting in the corner of my study, staring at me as if she is expecting me to tear off her clothes and ravish her like her previous owners did. I am half tempted to reopen my lab once more and dig into her internal cavity, but I will hold myself back for now. I will figure out what to do with her in time. For now, I guess I'll just have to keep her fed. Adieu, Jimmy Cass.
So at this point, he doesn't have any care or affection for Sarah. He literally sees her as this creature that he has to deal with. I'm wondering when the turn is going to come, because he doesn't have a heel turn, because he definitely doesn't care for the lives of other people. He just grew to care for Sarah, but I wonder why. And I'm hoping that that's what they're going to answer next.
April 21st, 2014. The girl continues to one
day later.
April 21st, 2014.
1 day later. Jesus.
The girl continues to intrigue me. I woke this morning to the smell of a full breakfast being made. As I entered my kitchen, the girl was there, standing on the bare tips of her toes by the stove, frying bacon and eggs. They were oddly perfect, but I was sure that she was trained to ensure their perfection from her previous owners. Nevertheless, I found the gesture rather endearing. The proper word escapes me. As she looked at me, she gave me an innocent smile. Why does she smile like that? Her cooking skills are obviously beaten into her, but her smile seems terribly natural. It could not have been born out of an act. The more I let it sink into my memory, the more fascinated I become of her. I ate every bite of her meal. She must have been happy that I approved of her food, as she released the tension in her shoulders at my final bite. Another experience, most likely from her training. I asked her about her previous owners, but she simply said that they were sad people. Sad people? Truly, who would call pedophilic dimwits sad? A child would. I've instructed her to clean the house while I sit here and ponder. I can hear her trying to dust the high shelves in the living room. Something about her keeps me from just locking her down and splitting open her skull. I want to know the trauma she has gone through and how that has affected her brain, and yet I find myself struggling to even lift my scalpel at the idea. Have I become too soft? I doubt so. She is a child, a nuisance on humanity, an annoyance. Yet I cannot deny that I am being held back by some form of emotion I do not recognize. I will watch her. I've given her a medical bed to sleep on in one of my empty rooms, so she'll at least be healthy enough to observe. She is capable of feeding me as well as herself, so that is another annoyance off my back. I also will have to give her a name. I find that calling her girl will only annoy me. A name would be beneficial. What to name her? I will think on it more. I will return and write the name down when I think of it. Adieu, Jimmy Cass. Edit. She has a name, apparently. Her name is Sarah.
Oh, God. So this is the start of it. This is the start of him, like he mentioned earlier in the game that that she was like the daughter he never had, but it seems weird that this horrible human being would ever think of anyone like her as a daughter. So I wonder what's going to happen. I have to know. Number 6.
March 3rd.
Wait.
March.
So it's been almost a year. Wow.
March 3rd, 2015. I must admit, children are not as wretched as I imagined them to be. If trained and properly taken care of, they can prove to be rather useful and entertaining. Sarah goes out of her way to keep the entire house dust-free, and still manages to find time to draw pictures in the little notepad I have given her. Her art is novice, untrained, but still manages to make me stare at them in a small form of pride. Am I truly proud of her? All she has drawn are butterflies, yet I could tell that each one was unique. Whenever I'd point to one and ask what it represents, she would smile that damnable smile and tell me it was another child she knew, or a person who was kind to her. There was one image, however, that I couldn't shake free from my thoughts and needed explanation for. On the very first page of her little notebook were two butterflies, one small and white, and the other a large monarch, or what I had assumed to be such with the orange crayon. I asked about it out of curiosity, needing to know. For once, she froze and tensed up. Her face, usually bright in some sort of innocent joy, melted to an expression of sadness and heartbreak. After a long moment of silence, she told me it was her and her knight. Her knight, truly. She had a wild imagination. I knew this, but a butterfly has a knight. I had to deduce that it was a family member or a really close friend. A childhood friend, perhaps. Still, I couldn't help but feel upset that I had made her feel so downtrodden. She may have acted like she was younger than 10 generally, but at that moment, I saw the maturity of a teenager. She told me that she had a knight who worked very hard, whom she looked up to dearly. Every morning she would see them leave, then be the first to greet them when they returned from school. I was wrong. It wasn't a friend, but a family member, an older sibling. Apparently, this sibling was named Chris, and they protected Sarah from everything bad in the world, making them her knight. When she started to talk about the day she was abducted, she began to weep and curl into herself, whimpering that she was sorry and how she let her knight down. I had to stop her and try to comfort her, but she simply went into a fetal position and cried herself to the point of passing out. She's still out cold now, even as I write this. For some ungodly reason, I feel the need to reunite Sarah to her knight. It would take me a while, but she seems to really desire to return home to Chris. I'll need to run some tests on her to pin down her family, in case one of her owners tried to claim her as theirs, and then I'll have to pull some strings to get her there without incident. I have to ponder. Adieu, Jimukas.
So basically what happened is that after spending so much time with her, he finally, he wanted her to be happy. He was going to return her to her home. Whether it was because he got older or whether it was because, like, you know, maybe Sarah just had that effect on him. You never know, but he's still undeniably an evil person, but sometimes even evil people will do a good thing once in a while.
March 3rd, 2015.
That's this one. Oopsie. Okay.
March
March
7th.
Oopsie. So, March 7th, just a few days later.
March 7th, 2015. I was never the religious sort. I have never believed in God. But today, I want to scream into the sky and curse the damnable deity for even existing in social thought. Sarah is dying. Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. The bastard people who kept her and passed her around dug their filthy hands into her and gave her one of the most deadly diseases one could have. It is no wonder she looked frail. I should have done blood tests on her when I took her in. It's too late. There is no cure on this earth that can save her. Even with my brilliance, I cannot fathom where to begin to even try. I've reached out to fellow scientists and friends, and all of them have come up with nothing. Nothing! Nothing. At the rate the disease is attacking her body, I have estimated she has about 1 month left to live. Perhaps 2. Damn it all. She would die before I could return her home.
That's rare for him, I'm guessing. He feels regret. Probably for the first time in his life, because if he had done tests on her a year ago when he first acquired her, she would probably still be alive. Maybe he would have been able to treat her. But the thing is that one person he's not... Like, he blamed, like, all of the people who didn't save her. I figure he probably also blamed himself, too. Ah, man. Last entry.
April 14th, 2015. I had to bury her today. Under more typical circumstances, I would cremate the corpse and spread the ashes into the lake for quick disposal. However, I could not do that to Sarah. She has a special place in the Black Shadows now. During her time with me, she was my reason for waking, and my reason for pushing joyfully through the days. She made me smile on days when I could not. And in death, she drives me still. Before her passing, she told me of her abduction. She had abandoned her home to wander streets of the town she once lived in. She was ignorant of the dangers that were present, naively trusting that she would never have harm brought upon her by any stranger. She could not even fathom that someone would wish to steal her away, that perverted rats would find value in her young, soft flesh.
Ugh.
The thought of it sickened me even before. But now that I had known Sarah, I'm filled with something more than sickness at the prospect. Is it hate? I'm unsure. The abduction occurred in 2012. I hastily used all of my resources to find out what I could. There was indeed an Amber Alert for a Sarah in a little town north of the tri-state area. The street cameras and footage only amplified her story. Though there was something that I noticed that she could never have. I saw right away that she could have been saved. She could have been saved. She died an unfair death at the hands of a disease never meant for her. Because of 3 cowardly individuals, she was dragged through the pits of hell. Little insects desecrated the fate of a harmless butterfly. Oh, how I wish I could simply rip those insects from the world and tear them apart with my bare hands. But Sarah's dying wish stills me. With that smile I grew to love. She wished that her sibling, Chris, knew the truth of what happened to her. I have found my new experiment. This will be the last experiment I ever do. I will seek out these insects and this sibling. I will make them all stare at the harsh realities that Sarah had been forced to face. I will drag them through hell and then back again just to show them the shame of their actions. The 3 insects must be made to understand what their cowardice did to such an innocent soul. They will bow to the monarch and offer their heads, and as punishment for not protecting the white butterfly, the night will bear the weight and decide the fate of those responsible for her abduction. My work begins. I must plan my experiment. Perhaps I will consult my programmer friends to help design this punishment. Maybe a few architectural friends as well. This will not be a dissection, oh no. This will be a gleefully torturous game. Oh, how I've missed this thrill. Adieu, Jimukas.
Well, at least that's interesting. We finally have a better clue of who... Well... Like, you know... there he is. Of who this person was. Insane as they were, and crazy and maniacal and manipulative, one thing that's constant with them is the fact that they grew to love Sarah, but they never realized that they were inflicting the same kind of pain and agony on other people. It was all about them. It was all about their pain and how they were angry, not about how other people would feel. And the only reason that he let them go at the end of the game was because Sarah asked him to. It was Sarah's dying wish. So, yeah. Well, that is it for Remember. There's apparently a trophy that no one else has been able to get called, like, Masochistic Pleasures or something like that, where no one's figured it out. Apparently, Michaela Laws, the creator of this game, who also voices Rosa, I found out, she designed, like, you know, something in the extras menu, but I have no idea what it would be, and I have no idea how I would get that, you know, last trophy. No one does. It may just go uncollected for all of time. But either way, thank you everybody so much for watching. I appreciate you being here with me. Oh man, that was heavy. That was heavier than I thought, but at least, to me, it was an interesting case study for an interesting character, even if it was pretty fucked up and disturbing. Yeah, very disturbing. But that is the end of Remember, so thank you once again for joining me, and I will see you in the next one, my beautiful, beautiful viewers.